If you had to say as an entrepreneur, one of the biggest challenges in Maine is employment. We need people.
When foreign workers come to the U.S. to work, they come to work, especially in, let's be honest, some of the jobs that Americans aren't applying for. I work a lot for employers who are trying to get employees status so that they can work, but I'm also working with those employees. And so I see it as a huge success story when somebody gets their status, which means their hopes and dreams are solidified. I also feel like I'm doing a public service. The more foreign workers we get, the more our businesses grow,
Right.
the more U.S. jobs get created, and the more our economy benefits.
Having a beer with Fred is really about getting to people's passion and what makes them tick. Having a beer and having honest, frank, clear conversation that inspires our audience is what it's about.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So tell me a little bit about yourself. Give me your full name and where you're from and how you end up being a world-class lawyer.
Well, Marcus Jaynes, grew up in Connecticut, born in Michigan, been in Maine for a little over 20 years now, and been doing immigration law ever since I started practicing law.
The first time we're meeting, a lot of times I'm introducing and talking to people that I've had a long history with, and we talk about entrepreneurship, right? And in entrepreneurship, we talk about location, persistence. We talk about timing. We talk about, really the focus and energy of what it takes to make a business work. And honestly, one of the biggest challenges entrepreneurs have today in most markets, especially in America, is employment. People, good people,
Right.
people you can depend on, and all the challenges. And it was a number of years ago, we started doing business through someone recently. I just interviewed Joe Christopher, who was Three Rivers rafting and a variety of things. So when Joe and I met, he mentioned the fact that he had been using a lot of different programs to bring employees to his business. And we had been using some different individuals. They were brought in from Jamaica and some other areas to work at different hotels, and maybe they work part-time for us. And tell us a little bit about how you ended up in it and what you do now, and I'll explain from my side how I see it.
Well, it's been a long road. I came into immigration law from kind of a humanitarian perspective.
Trying to do good.
Yes.
That's always a good way to start.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that meant working on asylum cases
Uh-huh.
and trying to help people.
What year was that?
That was around 2003.
And was that in Maine?
It was.
Okay. So they're here and they can't work, and you're trying to figure out how to make them work legally.
Yeah, they can't work, they can't go home,
Yeah.
and need to try to stay. And from there, I started working with families quite a bit, and then also working with the employment side of the immigration process.
So over the years at Shipyard here, we're at 27 Hancock Street in Portland, Maine, and we had a number of people that were from Albania. They were war refugees, and they came through the church, and they became citizens, and we employed them. We had a number of Jamaicans. We had a number of people from different countries in Africa that already found their way to being citizens. They probably maybe even worked with you. Who knows?
Could be.
Yeah. So now a lot of the people we've gotten, and there's been some amazing people that really, a lot of them have been from Jamaica. And a lot of them have worked for us from 5, 6, 7 years. And tell me, do you focus on a certain type of person or place or country? Do you find these people and then they end up working for us, or do they find you?
Well, most of the work we do and most employment-related immigration is employer-driven.
Mm-hmm.
And so generally we're working with employers to try to essentially work through the Department of Labor and Immigration Service processes to grab available numbers to be visa numbers to be used to look for workers who are here and who are abroad, and use those numbers, those slots for temporary employment. And a big area is the H-2B process, which is for seasonal or temporary workers. So the summer crush of business, the peak season.
So what's crazy is, and I didn't really think about this, but my grandfather would go to Lebanon, and he was from Lebanon, and he would bring over Lebanese people to America, and they would work in the mills. And this was in the early 1900s. I got to believe it was a lot easier in the early 1900s, but they would end up in Waterville, Maine. They ended up in Lowell, Massachusetts, Manchester, and they would go back. He would go back and forth and literally bring them into the country. Today, people have all kinds of mixed political beliefs about this, but right now, if somebody can get into this country legally, I'm a big believer. We need people. We need people to grow our economy. We need people to fill jobs at every level, low end, mid, entry level jobs, to scientists, to every aspect. Do you talk to our politicians about trying to make it easier, or at least more? Because right now it's not necessarily easy. It's not cheap either, right?
No.
We spend a great deal. You're making a little bit of money off us. That's which is a good thing. But at the same time, people think, oh, you're taking advantage of these people. No, they're making a good wage, and they want to come back. A lot of them want to become citizens.
So there's a lot in there.
Right? Yeah.
We do advocate with legislators, rule makers, the folks who are in the government, who make these rules. That is an uphill battle. There's a huge tension right now, and has been for a long time, between trying to protect U.S. workers, which is obviously really important, and recognizing the importance of foreign workers to our labor force and our economy.
Well, when Kid Rock got called on the carpet about having a few people that may work for him in Nashville, obviously he didn't hire him directly or whatever. Maybe he has a restaurant group doing his restaurant, which is he got called on the carpet. He says, listen, 100% agree with that, the fact that we should be doing things legally, but then he said, we need to figure out a way to let good, honest people that don't have a criminal background become legal quickly. And I've heard about some bipartisan bills about initiatives to do that. Do you think that we'll get there? Do you think?
I sure hope so.
Yeah.
Because all of the think tanks, all of the studies from economists show that the more foreign workers we have, whether it's H-2B seasonal workers whether it's agriculture, that would be an H-2A.
Yeah.
Or landscaping, hospitality, whatever it is.
Education, like scientists, research.
And then on the other side of the coin, right?
Yeah.
Professional, high-level jobs. The more foreign workers we get, the more our businesses grow, the more U.S. jobs get created, and the more our economy benefits.
Right.
And we've just got to get Congress to
hands to do it, right? They'll have a level of. I know that we've been helped by our senators, both Susan Collins and Angus King. When we hit speed bumps, we called their offices, and they called down to the different representatives in Jamaica and said, let's get this process moving. It'd be like June, like May, and we needed people, and they were stuck home. So it's, where do you see the best? Like, do you like dealing more with Europe or more with Jamaica, or what areas are there? New areas opening up where people want to come and work? And
well, there are more areas opening up as of some rulemaking in the last year. Some restrictions were loosened that really allow workers from more countries to come on these temporary visas. But the thing that I see across the board is that when foreign workers come to the U.S. to work, they come to work.
Right.
They're here to work. They want to work, especially in, let's be honest, some of the jobs that Americans aren't applying for.
Right.
And that's really how the H-2B seasonal process is built. Is the employers can't just grab these workers because they want to. They have to advertise the jobs to U.S. workers to show that they're not getting.
Well, and that's that's the crazy thing. Right now, we're like 20% down on just being able to fill jobs. So, like, we need 7 people in the kitchen, we've got 6, 5, and it's very fluid. And you're right. Plus, we have to provide housing, right? They rent it for what is below market, but the reality is we had to go out and lease apartments, buy properties, and
That's one of the big challenges.
right. And Jill Moses, who we'll meet a little later on this interview, she will literally have either pick them up themselves at the airport and bring them in. A lot of times they won't have jackets. We're going up to Sugarloaf for Sunday River. Coming in the summertime, they're all set, most of the Jamaicans. But it's been kind of an experience that we didn't realize the logistical challenges. Get them to the airport, whether it's Boston or whether it's one morning at 4:30, she's waking up to bringing them to Boston because you can only get a connection. How many people do you have in your office just assisting with these little things you wouldn't think of? You think they'd show up, be ready to work, and you just, okay, it's 9:00, show up at Sea Dog, but the reality is there's a lot of hand holding just to make it work, right? I mean, I see it on my side.
Absolutely.
How about on your side?
Well, we have 4 attorneys in our office, 6 staff, and
It's a big practice as far as Maine goes, right?
With
one area law.
Yeah, I mean, immigration is all we do.
Yeah.
And we are a pretty large team for such a small
Right.
practice area.
You have much competition? Are there a lot of lawyers doing it, or probably a lot of lawyers don't know what exactly the technical?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
In Maine, the immigration bar has really grown.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of folks doing it, not enough.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Especially on the on the humanitarian side of thing, there's not enough attorneys to go around for people who need help. But I like to think of it as not so much competition, but colleagues,
Right.
Fellow practitioners.
Well, Maine, in my lifetime, I was born in 1960 in Portland, Maine, and we haven't grown, right? Everybody has this belief that the state of Maine is just amazing growth. Well, we've grown down south, but we've not as much up north. We've grown with second homes, but not necessarily year-round people. We don't have as many kids in high school as we did, back when I was in high school. It's a different dynamic. We really have a seasonal economy. So you're filling a big need because the high school kids, we used to get a lot of high school kids that would work. And we're not seeing the younger kids from the local schools wanting to work, which is kind of bizarre too, right? I don't know if you know that or hear that, but that's one reason it creates an opportunity to let others come in, or a necessity almost if we don't have that.
Yeah, I mean, Maine is a small state, small world.
Yeah.
Circumstances come up, I'm sure for you constantly, right?
Yeah, and we do business in Florida. We do business around the country with selling Pumpkinhead and other brands. In Florida, it's a different thing because you definitely have so many large employers bringing people in, people moving there. It's more dynamic. And when I was growing up, the work ethic in Maine was very strong. People would hire anybody around the country that was from Maine because of that work ethic. It'll be interesting to see in 10 to 20 years what people think of Maine workers. But I can tell you the foreign workers that have worked for us through your program and others that have come from even Puerto Rico, not necessarily foreign, obviously, but that the work ethic is like you said, they come to work and they want to work. And a lot of times they'll leave their families at home and be ready to send money back and be ready to figure out a way to bring them here. Because there's a program too, I guess, where they can start a company. You can start a company with them and they can stay and bring others a little easier, right?
There are pathways, the E-visa, which I have to think stands for entrepreneurship. It's the E1 is for trade and E2 is for investors.
Yeah.
And there are some great pathways for businesses to get up and running.
What's your biggest success story? What's your biggest thing you look at and go, I made a difference. That difference is going to have a ripple effect. I got this person a job and that person did this, et cetera.
Well, I mean, really, it's part of what keeps me going is that all the work I do because, I work a lot for employers who are trying to get employees status so that they can work, but I'm also working with those employees. And so I see it as a huge success story when somebody gets their status, which means their hopes and dreams are solidified. They're here with their family and they're pursuing their career, whether it's someone in academia, a scientist or researcher, or a hospitality worker.
Yeah.
And then I also feel like I'm doing a public service, contributing to a business.
Do you have one or two individuals that bought a house or did something, or they became a citizen and they made it that you feel like, okay, like there are people that have been challenges, but then there've been some key employees that have gone on to, like, there's a Heather Parkett who runs the food bank, Good Shepherd Food Bank. She worked at Federal Jacks and did an internship with us and was a great employee. But then through her career, I've kind of tried to, she's always touched base with me. And so I always can point to her, and I can point to, somebody like a young Frank Curran who got into real estate, and because I coached him and what he did is but they had the desire themselves to really put that little extra energy in. I know there's a few key people, Jermaine, some others that have brought over others that I know that I've seen, and you hear the backstories of they kind of agents.
Yeah, it's the snowball effect, right?
Yeah.
Of families, friends, communities, businesses that start. I'm trying to think of a story along those lines.
Well, I know with us, you've created this. I mean, I know these different families are from Jamaica, but they come from different areas in Jamaica, and then they end up being close. And we've grown. It's kind of funny. They played. It's like a sport almost. People play to a level, and I think the ones that have worked together with us for season after season develop a certain mentality. Like this summer, our group out of Peaks Island were really, I couldn't get enough compliments from different islanders saying what a great experience it's been out there. And, so it's nice to see, because it's not as easy to get people to work together. It's a complicated situation. You got to have a good management. You got to have and a lot of these different individuals have taken on management roles that have been really, really powerful for the organization, because we're void of that next generation of restaurant leaders that become managers. We have one gentleman, Jesse English, who started as a dishwasher and, in high school at Federal Jacks, and now he heads up a whole culinary group. And, it's amazing. Our team was brought on by different individuals, and I know that different companies do that. In the restaurant business, is critical. They have people, they know where the light switch is and know where you shut the water off in the building. And, when somebody shows up and they learn that, they become even more valuable. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What do you see happening? Do you think, whether it's a Democrat or Republican or in office, the administration right now, do you feel like they're wanting to work and keep programs going? Or?
That's a tough question.
Yeah. I don't want to give you too many easy ones.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, currently, immigration is a hot issue.
Yeah.
And
I don't get the sense that most people, most people feel we need immigration. We need people to come into this country. I would say if you asked any politician, it would say, legally we need to grow our population, I would think, unless they don't fully understand where America is at.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a huge issue in Maine.
Yeah.
Because, they talk about aging population, they talk about the younger population leaving.
Yeah.
And the gap right there is going to be filled
dry. Yeah.
Is the gap. One of the best ways to fill that gap is through foreign worker talent.
Yeah.
And there are some folks working in Maine to help. People will come over here fleeing from another country who might be judges, doctors, scientists, and they come over here and they have a language barrier and they have a cultural barrier, but
They still do the work. They can
if
still,
and so they might end up working in a custodial position when they're first here,
yeah,
which is a real waste of
talent. Yeah.
and
Well, we
getting them on the path to being able to work in their field again is a really important step.
Yeah, we right now have kind of an interesting. We're putting a brew pub in Lowell, Massachusetts, on UMass, basically right almost on the campus.
Oh wow!
And we were there yesterday and met with the president, Julie Chin, and she was telling the history of Lowell, which really the college was set up originally because it was there to educate people for textiles and train people how to work in the textile business. And now it's evolved into similar type situation where they're bringing companies on campus, and companies are setting up offices and guaranteeing an internship for students and everybody from Apple to other major corporations so that they can have employees. And it was my perception of the school now is a whole different thing, but they're really, a lot of kids will go to some of these schools and they'll be some of the best schools in the country, and they come out and they don't really know how to work in their field, so getting trained in those internships, kind of like Northeastern has that. But we're excited about putting this brew pub right on campus because we're hoping we will get that young energy, and maybe it'll feed into other locations. And but what do you see right now is when you're looking to try to grow with your company? Are you looking to stay about the same size, or are you looking to try to grow? I mean, as an entrepreneur yourself, you own the firm.
I do.
Yeah, so you're running this business. Do you want to kind of stay where you are and make it work for you, or are you looking to downsize? You looking to increase?
We'd like to grow, but we want to grow smart.
So some young lawyer that had the same passion you had would come to you and say, "Kind of give me a shot," or
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
Is it tough to find lawyers right now that want to do this type of work?
Yes and no. It's tough to find experienced lawyers who
You want them to already have a little while.
Ideally, it's helpful to have somebody who can hit the ground running. I mean, in any field,
Right.
But that's one of the biggest challenges is training.
Yeah.
And how to set up a tiered workforce so that everyone can bring a new person up.
And do you use AI? Do you use any technology that's changing the dynamic of your?
We do use some AI for research purposes and some for drafting purposes.
Yeah,
have to be a little careful with the attorney-client confidentiality, but there's some nice systems that sort of wall off and allow you to search through specific databases.
Yeah, because the world's gotten. I mean, with it used to be a $10 call or a $50 call to call the UK. Now with WhatsApp, you can call anywhere in the world and sound like they're right next door. I talked to a buddy of mine in Qatar yesterday, and it was like he was talking right next door. And he answered on his regular cell number. I didn't know where they were, and it is credible because our business, we do a lot of business in the UK, and we want to grow globally and selling a product and building our brand. And it's that's the same thing. You can interview somebody if they're anywhere in the world on FaceTime them. Do you do that? Do you use that?
We use Zoom and other technologies quite a bit to keep in touch with folks abroad, folks in different parts of the country. And, we work mostly with folks in Maine, but we do branch out into other parts of New England and even other parts of the U.S.
Are you placing people in Massachusetts, down the Cape, or?
Not as much. Here and there.
Yeah.
It comes up, but mostly focused on Maine in terms of seasonal work.
Yeah.
But
we were in Newport, Rhode Island, and on the beach, and all of a sudden we hear this all these Irish girls talking, and they're all young college-age Irish girls working in the different resorts there, which is a different program. I think the student visa program was a little, because we didn't seem to get as many in that program up here. I mean, Fun Towns seem to have a lot of with those type.
Yeah, the J1.
Yeah,
I think maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you see for Maine? Do you think Maine? We've got this Family Leave Act, which is kind of an interesting program, and I keep wondering how's that going to relate to people that are, so like, how will that work? It seems like we're paying on that, but can't imagine how that would work
for foreign nationals.
Yeah.
Well, it becomes a tricky web.
Let me get some free legal advice on this.
Yeah.
Here, so I've been wondering about this one. Like, what is it? I mean, the whole program to me shouldn't be run by the government, state of Maine. It's very difficult for the state to run the things they presently do. Now they're setting up this whole, what will, in my opinion, will be a bureaucracy that'll be tough to deal with, letting people take up to 3 months off. If anybody is, I don't know how they'll prove it, how all these other things will happen. So how does it happen with somebody?
It can get tricky. When you have someone here who's a foreign worker with a temporary immigration status, and they have a life event that brings them into, the world of labor law and employee rights.
Right.
And generally those provisions are still applicable.
Yeah.
So it can get very complicated, especially for an employer that's looking for somebody for a 7-month period of employment, and all of a sudden they have a leave that they need to take.
Yeah. It's going to be, to me, it's unworkable. I don't know how the state of Maine can do it. We do it in New Hampshire. It's a voluntary, and there's insurance, and people can elect to pay in because the employers are paying, we're paying. And at the same time, it's got to work economically, has to be able to be fundable and all that. It just don't, we'll see, but I can't imagine. I think it's something that's got to change to be optional, and certain insurance that people can opt in. But that's just my opinion. But if you all of a sudden place people here and they have to go back or something changes, it's going to be a tricky thing as a people hiring you to do it. But the government's got this program that it's really kind of tricky.
Yeah,
very tricky.
It's one other area where you got to stay on your toes, right? I mean,
or go out of business, one or the other. It's tricky because right now, I think if you had to say as an entrepreneur, what are the biggest challenges in Maine, it's, keeping a workforce, one, and because of the seasonality, that's the tricky part. And, but at the same time, everybody works through their niche. And I think you have an interesting niche. It's a great service to us and our team, and I think it will keep evolving. We don't know where the future is with it, but
that's one of the things, like the weather in Maine or in New England. They say,
wait a minute,
and it's a constant change.
Yeah,
and
well, I appreciate all your hard work. And is there anything else we missed, or something else you want to mention?
Well, I'm not sure. We covered quite a bit. Really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you.
Thank you.
And it's great to finally meet you.
Great meeting you, and we'll keep doing it.
I enjoy working and learning about your business, as I run mine, and I learn from people like you
and Jill, who we'll talk to soon. She keeps me on my toes. So it's we're fortunate to have your legal advice and assistance, and we're fortunate to have the people you've been able to provide to us. And for the most part, it's been an amazing experience. So
it's an honor.
Cheers.
Thank you, Fred.
Cheers.
Cheers.